Okay, this is a podcast recording, one of the first podcasts back after a little bit of time with Alexey Welsh, who I did a podcast with in March of this year after I reached out to him about some of the videos he had on YouTube that was about sexual energy and circulating sexual energy and love and sex and emotional substances in sex and a lot of great stuff. That episode, that conversation really helped me a lot in the ways that I relate to sex and some of my own personal healing in sexuality. And so since then, we've become friends. I've taken his course online, Holistic Sex, which I definitely recommend. Any of his videos on YouTube have become, or a lot of his videos on YouTube have become really great resources for me to continue to really just saturate and new concepts about sexuality. So if you like this dialogue, highly recommend checking out all of his content. Really great stuff. So there are a couple like audio issues with this, but I just went and used my computer audio, so it should be pretty smooth. Anyways, thanks for checking it out. Hope you enjoy.
So the first question that I have, and this probably will go off the record. I don't know because I know this isn't really necessarily your public area of expertise, but it's about tantric sex. Me and Lauren both when we were in
Mhm.
London, you know that we hung out in London. That was awesome. Uh, Me and Lauren both went to a tantric sex festival, and it was really cool. It was our first time like really being submersed in the world of tantra, and so it seems kind of slippery of a thing to define or put a like when someone says what's tantric sex, what's tantra. Um, I kind of just think like mindful sex and mindful approach to living, but also sexually or using sex as a way of like energy cultivation outside of just like needing to have a release of sorts. But I was curious to know. Again, I know it's not necessarily your public area of expertise on this, but just kind of as a buddy, like your what is tantric sex in your opinion from what you've gathered about it through the years?
You can cut out the pauses later, right?
Take all you want,
Um,
man. Think it means you got a good answer
right.
coming.
hmm Well, so I think uh, this has become a bunch of different things that people understand in different ways, and tantric sex means different things. It's like quite a broad industry, so to speak. Now, like what people understand by tantric sex. I think there will be people referring to like the authentic sex from tantra, sexual practice from the tradition of tantra that is solely for like doing a spiritual
Yeah,
practice, almost like a meditation that is not about sex at
like
all.
naked yoga kind
It's
of
just
thing.
like that kind of thing. Well, yeah, and like a ritual
Yeah,
almost, yeah. So there will be some that's got nothing to do with like having good sex or enjoying sex at all. So there will be some people referring to it this way, but I think uh, you are right that it has become almost like an adjective, I would say. Really realistically, it's become like a movement to take sex out of the physical, basic kind of mainstream physical normality and explore how we can have sex more consciously, more mindfully, more energy based,
mm.
more, I suppose, like in a more advanced way energetically. So I think you're really onto something
it
there by calling it,
is it
yeah,
something like so I do have a couple questions on this, a couple just things I kind of chewed on.
yeah.
Is it that there's a potential to have energy practices of the body like qigong and meditation and grounding practices and those types of things. And ultimately, a lot of what we're after as feeling beings is feelings in our body, which is like a byproduct of energy. And that tantric practices, tantric sex, just to like to put it into that specifically, tantric sex is more so about energy energy cultivation, using the entire body, loving the entire body, involving the entire body in a way that you're giving, receiving love through touch, um, as a way to energize the entire body, not excluding genitals, but using genitals as a way of creating more energy in the body. And also that maybe sexual energy itself is just this really strong, potent source of energy, and trying to use that raw energy as like a resource to then be able to pull into the body to circulate it and to energize the body at large, instead of just like running down the river rapid towards, orgasm or ejaculation for men. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but what you seem to be saying is, are these practices that are existent in tantric sex rather than what tantric sex is, right? So what you seem to be saying is not like, tantric sex is doing this particular practice, but what you're saying is, this is one of the things that we might be doing in sex that we would call tantric.
Yeah, and I'm more than happy to rest it on that and to just kind of go into the question with that perspective. Like, is this one of the things that's going on in tantric sex that I've accurately captured in my short experience with it? Using the entire body, using sex and the things that look like sex as somewhat of like an
Hang on, wait. You broke up there, so I lost you when you said I'm more than happy to jump into the question. Then I lost you.
oh yeah, shoot, okay. um Yeah, just so yeah, so I'm more than happy to go into the question from that angle. Not like, is this tantric sex in a nutshell, but like, is this one of the things that's happening in tantric sex? Is this one of the practices? The idea of using the body as a means of energy cultivation, through things that appear sexual, but maybe have nothing to do with, like lust, the biological instinct for reproduction, the need for sexual release. It's more about like pulling sexual energy into the body as a potent source of energy to enrich and to enliven and energize the body.
Well, I think in general terms, when people talk about tantric sex, and again, there's a really broad spectrum of how people practice tantric sex and how they teach it. Yeah, I think in general terms, there will be the general idea that yes, we are cultivating sexual energy and channeling it into something.
Yeah.
What that something is will vary from one school to another, right? So, for in some descriptions, it will be like what you say, that it's to almost use it like a source of vitality, so
Mhm.
a life source. So you are kind of filling up for general well-being, for like your life energy. There will be other schools that might take it further and say that, well, no, that's supposed to be channeled into um, some kind of spiritual transmutation and connecting with the divine. So they are kind of also talking about using sexual energy, but in a different way, like for a different purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that will all vary. Yeah, and then there will also be like tantric sex that will be just about you can last for hours with tantric sex, and
Yeah.
that'll be the purpose of that.
Who's
So
the
that exists as well.
who's the famous guy that was like Prince or somebody that was
The famous guy. Well,
wasn't
yeah.
who?
Okay. So this goes off the record, mate.
All right, well, hey, let's skip it.
This goes off the record.
Let's skip it.
No. I can tell you off the record. There's just no way that you can put it online.
Okay, go for it.
But let me tell you off the record. The famous guy, the singer.
Yep, that was him.
Well, apparently, so there's been this myth about him like having tantric sex for all these years. Apparently, it then turns out that it was just a joke. He came into a pub. His mates were waiting for him or whatever, and they were like, "Where have you been? You've been ages." He was like, "Oh, I was having tantric sex." Apparently, it all kind of went from there.
That's really funny, man.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way I could put that on public YouTube.
That's funny. Yeah. All right. So one thing that I heard a few times at the tantric festival that was really interesting was, this isn't sexual. That was the phrase that I heard from so many of the the speakers and some of the teachers, one particular time was during the massage portion where they're involving the genitals, stimulating the entire body. But many times the teacher said, "This is not sexual." What do you make of that?
I have no idea what he meant by that.
The thing that he kept saying.
Did he explain what he meant by that?
Yeah, they were saying that they kind of did. What I gathered from it was that the way that they were using sexual that weekend, I think, was more so having to do with like the unconscious biological lust. I think that maybe it's more so like lust is a biologically reproductive instinct of sorts, and it's largely unconscious, and it just kind of needs release. And so like there's that experience sexually. There's that as a sexual experience, and then there is attending to the energy of someone's body and tending to energize their body through touch, through emotional substances, and the intention is to elevate them, to energize them. Not is it to get some type of sexual gratification that begins to gratify like a feeling in the body that's more so to do with that lust. If that makes sense.
Well, two aspects to that question and answer. First of all, from what I understand about Tantra, without being an expert on Tantra as a kind of as a practice that is, the kind of the holistic practice of Tantra and the spiritual philosophy, there are many schools in it and there are many practices in it. And obviously, like the sexual part has got known in the West, became famous for it, but it's like, a very small percentage of it, right? And there's lots of different things that they do with the energy of the body, with the consciousness, with the rituals that have nothing to do with sex. Not even that, you're doing it with a naked body, but you're just not doing. It's got nothing to do with anything like that at all. So it's like doing yoga or qigong or something, not like that. But there's lots of different things that happen in Tantra that got nothing to do with sex. Now, if also the other aspect of it, if he is saying that, well, we are touching the naked body with a particular touch to create sort of a particular feeling or particular energy in it, and we are touching the genitals for that, but it is not sexual because sexual is this kind of primitive lust that wants to release, and that's not what we're doing here.
Sure, yeah, that's what I gathered.
Then really, hang on a second, is this a tantric sexuality workshop or not? Because if it is a tantric sexuality workshop, then we are elevating tantric sexuality from that, and we're still calling it sexuality, right?
Yeah.
So we can't just say that all sexuality is just this primitive, basic, lust release. So the whole subject that we're talking about here is that sexuality can be different. So therefore it is sexual, but a different kind of sexual. And otherwise what we're saying is, this is not techno, therefore it is not music.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, man. I mean, I think one of the things that I thought was one thing that they said during the festival that was really cool to me was making something sacred. One of the ladies there defined making something sacred as infusing it with consciousness. And so essentially we're going after sacred sexuality here, becoming more conscious in our sexuality. So yeah, like I can see that you wouldn't really want to leave the word sexual behind, but instead enliven it with a slightly different tone that doesn't like lean towards like an unconscious, just primitive need for release, but instead involves that really powerful sexual energy into something that we can aim at different targets. Like you don't have to just aim at coming, aim at ejaculating, aim at just getting release from this. Like sexual energy doesn't have to be a burden in that regard. It can be a really, really potent energy source for you and for your lover or lovers to really marinate in, saturate in. That type of thing. So, but it requires you to be able to breathe with it, feel it, and not be absorbed completely by just the instinct of need to release.
Well, it's a completely different practice and it's a completely different feeling. So the quality of sexual energy becomes different. And
Say that. Say
it's
that
a
again,
bit
man.
like we
You broke up when you started saying that. Say that one more time, but
the so the it's a completely different practice when we not the tantric sex specifically. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about the potential. Let's just kind of clarify. We're not talking about like specifically tantric sex. I'm not advertising tantric sex, but if we are talking about a more mindful, conscious practice of sex, whatever we want to call it, more energy based practice of sex, yeah, generically, which just to clarify, sort of tantric sex has become almost like a synonym for, yeah.
sure, yeah.
So but we shouldn't really affiliate it. Like that's my belief. We shouldn't affiliate it with any culture. The If we are taking it further, if we're developing sexuality further, then what we are inevitably going to go into. Right, we're back, yeah.
Yep.
What we're inevitably going to go into is that we're going to expand our experience
Mm-hmm.
into new kinds of sexual that we haven't felt before, and because we haven't felt it before, we haven't labeled it sexual.
Yeah.
So if coming back to my previous example, if you've only been listening to techno, then for you techno is music, so you're feeling this and you're saying, oh, this doesn't feel sexual. Well, no, it is sexual, just the sexual that you haven't experienced before because you were only experiencing this particular kind.
Yeah.
And we even have this even happens in the moment of sex, and I think this is a really, really important practical thing for everybody to do. Be aware that you have this interpreter in your head. You're feeling sex, something's happening, and you're like, am I excited or not? Am I sexual or not? Oh, this is not working for me. This is not sexual. Because it's not sexual. Back?
Yep. We're back.
Because it's not the sexual that I felt before. So therefore it's not sexual. And then there's no growth mindset. We can't get out of this. So it kind of takes taking off, almost like not using the word sexual.
Yeah.
And say, well, look, I'm going to not look for the sexual feeling here, but I'm going to look just for feelings of maybe it's energy, maybe it's nourishment, maybe it's some kind of enrichment, some kind of happiness in my body. Maybe I'm going to look for new feelings here.
Yeah.
But actually, all those feelings are the spectrum of sexual energy that you haven't felt before. It's just you haven't labeled them this way yet.
Yep. I can get down with that, man. That feels really true.
But what is not helpful here is what you were told. That is not helpful.
Yeah.
It's not helpful to say this is not sexual, because then how are we going to develop a better practice of sex if we are never going to start calling this sexual?
Yeah, 100%. I can 100% agree with that, man. And I appreciate your perspective on that. That's really helpful. Another thing that I picked up from that festival was the idea of aiming with sexuality. That the sexual experience follows the aim, what you're aiming for. And a couple different options in my head is if you aim to come, if you aim to love, if you aim to access bliss through sexual union, to you and your experience, bro, how important of a tool is intention with opening up the sexual experience to finding those new experiences.
I think it's very important. Yeah, I think it's not like you set a goal that I want. It's not like shopping. I want a particular thing, but I think it's more like it's respect, and it's understanding the significance and the importance of something, and reminding yourself why this is special and why this is important and why this is sacred in a way, if you want to use that word. I mean, I don't normally use it, but it can be. So I think the clarification for yourself what this experience is about before you go into it, it really helps you to create it. Otherwise, you kind of aimlessly, you just don't it's otherwise you're on social media, whatever engages you. There's no purpose to it. So I like to set down to earth purpose to sex. If we see it as basically an experience, it's like a special dimension that we go into, like a special garden, a special space where we go there because it is a very nourishing, enriching experience, because we fill up with some kind of energy, sexual energy usually, but now we're expanding the definition of it. Love, it's an experience of love that feeds us, the experience of connection. So that's a really nice purpose to it. And then if you keep that purpose in
Yeah.
mind, then it's almost like whatever else happened in sex doesn't matter as long as you felt
Yeah.
that. And then there is freedom, flexibility, and there's no like, this and this needs to be done. Well, why does it need to be done if you can get all that without doing this? You see what I
Yeah.
mean?
After our last conversation, man. Sorry if you had more to say. Go for it.
No, go
After our
for it.
last conversation, I really began seeing. That was in March? That was in March this year, I think. I really
Hmm.
I started to pay a lot more attention to the emotional, what I was bringing to the sex emotionally, and what I was showing up to sex to receive emotionally. And the first thing I started to do was just think about how much I loved my partner when I was with her, and just how much not like when we're still together, but like when we were together sexually, just like really paying attention to how much I loved her, the feelings that I had towards her, and which was different from just kind of the trying to have sex to get off kind of thing. And it was interesting, man, because the more and more I did that, what ended up happening one particular time, or two particular times, was a totally different style of pleasure in my body that was more like centrally located towards my heart. And it felt really, really good, but it really wasn't sensory, like skin level sensory, if that makes sense. It was really, really miraculous, man. Like we had a really beautiful sexual experience twice together, just with that intention that really, like, to use your words, like they really nourished us on a totally different level, on the emotional level. So that experience itself, and then the tantric festival has really begun to like lend itself in my mind to the importance of, like, what are you here to get? What are you here to? What's your intention with this experience? You know what I mean?
Well, for me, I think it's very beautiful that you kind of you are moving through all these places, and you have done. I think sort of and even um, something that can kind of bring in even more is if you if we can simplify this intention, and we can say, well, I'm here to be with this energy, to fill up with this energy, and to uh, kind of experience this energy, take it into
Hmm.
myself. And that's so broad, but at the same time, it's specific, because love is energy, but you don't want to reduce it only to love. It's only about love. Every sensation there is energy. All the genital sensation you get from it is energy, and love is energy. And even the feeling of connectedness is a very mysterious energy. We can be there literally in stillness, feeling connected, and then you feel, wow, you're really buzzing from it. So if you just see it as basically, I don't know what this energy is going to be today, but I know that it's a place of beautiful energy. I don't know what it's going to be like. And then you're really free and flexible. And as long as you're feeling some kind of interesting energy, you can really explore the different kinds of it. Sometimes it'll be more intense, sometimes it'll be more subtle. Uh, that might kind of take you into some really interesting dimensions, states of mind, states of consciousness, if you kind of like keep connecting with it this way. So it's almost like kind of like a fabric of that
Yeah.
space. Does that make sense? And like, I know that especially like what you might have seen already, I don't know, maybe like in some references in tantric sex, about it's mostly about like channeling genital energy, right? So like you're feeling something, instead of coming, you're lifting it up into
Sure.
yourself,
Yeah.
right? But that is like not the full picture. You can do that, but everything is
Certainly. Yeah.
energy. Like you're a whole sponge.
Yes.
You're a whole sponge, like the energy flowing into you through your
There's so
face,
there's two different
through
Yeah.
your hands,
So there's two
whatever.
different ways to go about it. Then, yeah, I'm not the expert here. I'm a student who's learning this stuff, brand new at it, and really enjoying my journey so far. But like, I see two really valuable perspectives there. Like, one is to see the genitals as, like, a place that is really, really sensitive and rich with energy and has a lot of pleasure going on through it, and then to intend to see if you can't relax and bring that energy into your body through intention. Like just breathe and relax. And maybe the more you breathe, you can circulate it more, relax your shoulders a little bit, maybe roll your head around, stretch and tend to circulate it. That's one option. And then the other option would be to like, one thing that's been really helpful to me is to see my entire body as a penis. Just think about my entire body as my sexual instrument instead of just, this giant thing that I drag around all the time.
What? I didn't think you said that at first, but then I realized that is exactly what you said.
But those two different, like, I've enjoyed more so personally. I've used more so the idea of like circulating energy from the genitals, but I also see a lot of value in what you're talking about, playing with it from just a like, just enjoy the touch on your arm, enjoy the feeling of the body, enjoy the aromas in the room, and like all of the senses, not just looking to your genitals as the input source for energy.
It's not just enjoyment. It is like your whole body is a very live space. So if you uh, stop making everything about the penis and seeing yourself as a penis, because you're not a penis.
Damn. I've been called a dick though.
I'm sure of that. Yeah,
So
I'm
when you
sure
get
of
called
that.
when you get called a dick, it can be like a slingshot into tantric practice. You're like,
There you go. Channel your dickness. The like see your body as a space. Like it's a whole space. You're in that space, and there's like lots of things flowing into it. And then like try to perceive all these different things. There can be more. There can be more specific, so you can really feel a sensation in your space, like a sound. But then there's like things that you couldn't describe
mhm.
that are appearing there, like a hum or like a flow or like fumes
Yeah.
almost. So it's difficult to describe. So your system is very sensitive. It's everywhere. At this level, we are having sex not just with an organ, but like you are having sex as a person. As a person, you are everywhere. So I see the genital energy as basically like a subtype of energy in your body. Yeah. So obviously, it's very clear, it's very strong, everybody feels it. You can channel it. When you channel it, you can really feel how it flows through your body. So there's all that. But it's a particular kind of energy that you engage and you do
Mm.
things with it. And then there's other kinds of energy in your body. Because it's also like if you broaden your mind from um, evaluating sexual energy by intensity, that's a really interesting exercise. Because we are quite used to, okay, bigger sensation means better. It's like louder music is not better. Lots of different kinds of music. So you will find interesting things. Like if you start thinking about sexual energy, not just like the more intense it is, the better, but the more, I don't know, the more blissful it is, the better.
Mm.
The more kind of happy or beautiful or nourishing it feels, the
Yeah.
better. Then you'll find that sometimes you can feel sexual energy that is actually quite calm, so quite
Yep.
subtle, but it gives you really amazing energetic experiences that are really kind of opening you up and making you kind of buzz and everything, but like from something really subtle. And then we discover that you could be holding your naked bodies with a particular kind of consciousness in it, without movement, without using the genitals, and you're going to get amazing sex from
Mm.
it. So it's not just touching; it's completely on par with genital sex. You see?
You said it's not touching, but it's on par with genital sex. What do you mean?
Well, I was referring to your use of language when you were saying, "Okay, I can feel like
Ah,
sexual energy in the genitals, but you can also enjoy just touching and stuff." And I'm saying,
yeah.
well, no, that there's like a lot of sexual energy there of different kinds. So it's not just enjoying some sensual
Yeah.
touching.
And that hops down to a question that I had towards the end of this, but it's relevant right now. you made a video recently about
Okay.
sex without erections, and
Uh-huh.
can you talk more about like how the sexual energy that is happening there that isn't from the genitals? Is that what that's going on?
It is from the genitals. It's just the genitals are in a different state
Gotcha.
of
Okay,
energy.
that's what I thought. I didn't know if it was in a different
Yeah.
direction. So totally understand that. Okay,
Yeah.
let's bring it back.
No, we can talk about that.
Yeah, well, it's not particularly intriguing to me at this moment, just because I thought we were going a slightly different direction with that conversation. So we'll pin it for the end.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so okay, this is really cool, man. So far in my experience, I've been focusing daily with doing breath work and being really mindful, even with self pleasure practice and in partnered sex, of feeling not intensity, but feeling sensitivity, and really being able to feel all the
Yeah.
spectrum of sensations, and just not aiming to come, like not aiming to have an ejaculatory orgasm,
Brilliant.
just like how do I feel in my body? Um, but still, I've been within the paradigm primarily of like bringing in energy through the genitals, circulating it into my body, relaxing as a response to sexual stimulation, sexual imagery, eroticism, that thing. But this is a slightly different perspective, and I really appreciate it. The idea of like really not seeing sexual energy as only from the genitals, but sexual energy as a space that you're in, like that garden you talk about, and just being able to like really sense the energy in the entire body. That's really helpful. I really appreciate that.
Great. Well, everything you do in like what you've been doing is fantastic as a part of the picture. Yeah, that's exactly what I would also recommend. So with the genital energy, that's a good way of doing it. Yeah, but then there's just like the other aspects of energy in your body as
Okay,
well.
so
Yeah.
what do you think about this? One thing that I feel like okay, well, let me just ask this. Is the ejaculation response like a response to a threshold of sorts of the body or the groin's ability to maintain or to hold, like the system's ability to hold a certain amount of stimulation or energy, and that's something that can be like expanded, redirected. You know what I'm saying? Is that what that's go is that what that is in your perspective and your experience?
Are you asking, can you sort of train yourself through these practices to kind of to raise that
Yes.
threshold? Hmm. Yeah, certainly. Yeah, by by basically you want to imagine it as like as a pressure
Hmm.
cooker that is there, and if you open the valve, so the channeling that you are doing through your body, like when you're spreading that energy through your body, so as soon as it is generated, it is spreading. So therefore, a lot more of it can be generated because it's flowing into you, and it's not just
Yeah.
compressing there. So yeah, absolutely. With this practice, you're really extending that. You're expanding it. Yeah.
The most remarkable moments for me in my own practice so far has been like degrees of sexual energy and I appreciate the broadening from intensity, but I'll keep it to intensity just for this particular conversation or this particular moment because
Okay.
that's been my
Yeah. Yeah.
experience. The intensity of certain sensations, very pleasurable, and I could feel through the consciousness of my breath, like through really staying relaxed into my breathing and to feeling and not like leaving kind of the centered sense and self to go after the pleasure. I felt myself kind of like I felt myself boogie board, over the wave a few times, like, and been like, whoa, that one would have normally knocked me off and been like the end, but I was able to really flow over that because of the sense of relaxation in my body and the committedness to like staying
Hmm.
centered in myself. you know that's pretty cool stuff, man.
Hmm. Very, very. Yeah.
And I think what's really cool about this, man, that a lot of people like myself made the error in thinking for a long time was like, obviously, like experiencing sex, the sexual energy is great, and not necessarily trying to like last longer to be a sexual gladiator and be a performer, but lasting longer in the sense of like really enjoying and nourishing and experiencing sex for as long as you'd like to enjoy it. And so the idea of like not
Yeah.
coming early in my mind was always about reducing sensation. Like, I wish I didn't feel so much. I wish I had a number penis so that way I could just keep having sex and not. And so I always thought that like, but now there's a whole different thought process that's become apparent to me. That's like you can have as much sensation as you like, and matter of fact, maybe as much as you're able to tolerate through nervous system conditioning. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's what happens in with men in a tantric practice or in any kind of conscious sex practice, in the kind of sex that I teach as well. What happens is, the more you activate your whole sexual system beyond the penis, the more like your congestion and your tension in the penis is not is released, removed. So it's like, you are like a lot less reactive in the penis to those things. So you can enjoy it, but like the whole system then absorbs it, because like your whole sexual attention or sexual presence, or I don't know what you want to call it, is spread everywhere now. So it's not compressing it so
Yep.
much
Yeah.
there, you know. So that's what you experience. Immediately has that natural effect of extending sort of what you like, how long you can be
And
in the
And a
stimulation.
side note for anyone who's listening to this and going like, "That sounds very interesting. What's like an easy way in?" I've just felt like the intention makes the difference. Just like intending to feel really good in my penis to ejaculate versus intending just to enjoy sensation and see if I can't just feel it more broadly, expand more broadly into my body. It's been really helpful for me.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Um,
Do you want me to
yes,
comment on
please.
that? So I think that's the missing piece. Oh, you're gonna have to cut this out because that sounded like piss.
It's the missing piss.
Oh man, sometimes I still kind of like, mess up my vowels in
That's so
English.
funny.
Just like the wrong vowel. um, the the missing piece in all the like all this like lasting longer training. I find a lot of the time guys are taught to last longer, and it's always about like, how to train your dick, how to stop your dick, how to lay off, do the breathing, but like they're practically never explained why you're lasting longer, because that just makes everything come together, and that actually makes everything really natural, really easy. Look, sometimes guys think that, well, lasting longer to satisfy the woman, but that's still not good
Mhm.
enough. Like, it's still
Sure. Yeah.
performative.
Certainly.
Why are you lasting longer? Yeah. Why are you lasting longer? Well, you're lasting longer because this sexual energy is for you to be nourished by. It's for you to be enriched by. You're interested in making it last longer because you're going to get more of this
Yeah.
energy. That's it. And then what happens then, as long as you kind of clock on to the intention, like you said, well, that is the intention. The intention is like, I want to fill up with this energy. Then there is the technique that you're using, like, the way you're channeling it and all of that. But the intention is that, like, I want to fill up with this energy. Once you clock on to that, the lasting longer becomes so much more easy because uh, like it all makes sense to you. You're like, well, of course I don't want to come because I want to keep it going. So like everything in you realigns with, letting it go into you and like keeping it away from the ejaculation. So that the purpose needs to be there. Yeah.
Okay. I'm interested in that, man, because one option of lasting longer is like just trying not to ejaculate. Just try not to come. Like the whole time, just grit your teeth and like breathe really deeply and like try, like stay in there, buddy. That versus what you're talking about is totally different. Like, but the thing that still arises in my head, man, is like how is it really just broadening the intention that then like allows you to access a different experience with sexuality? Because if you are just thinking ejaculation, come or not come, like from a man's perspective, ejaculate or not ejaculate, if you're just thinking about that, it kind of feels like a battle the entire time. But you're saying that you could use techniques like breathe deep, reverse Kegels or grounding and da 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 da. But instead, matter of fact, bro, just really pay attention to a broader spectrum of experience, and you'll find yourself maybe not going to the pitfall of just like ejaculation. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if like we're talking about the same thing, but a while ago I released a video quite a while ago now about what was it called? Something like the advanced level of not ejaculating. The point I was trying to make in that video is that like you gotta stop obsessing with not ejaculating in the same way as you stop obsessing with ejaculating. Like this whole like when you say, oh, it's a battle, it's not a battle, it's the same thing. You just put in plus and minus on it, but all you're thinking about is ejaculating or not. Like you've got to understand this is completely not what's happening here. You're not trying to not ejaculate. And you're not trying to have a non-ejaculatory orgasm. That's something that's like men can experience a non-ejaculation orgasm, orgasmic experience. We kind of completely here review what we understand by the word orgasmicity to start with. Just like we are redefining sexual, we are redefining orgasmicity. But yeah, there's a little note that goes on the list there.
I'm gonna sell this. I'm gonna sell this behind a paywall. This is going behind a paywall. Sign up now, $99.
Yeah. You can leave this joke in it. So the like, and I feel like in a way it's expanding men's understanding of sex, but in a way it is not liberating them enough. It's kind of like transferring them from one cage to another in a way sometimes. Now they're all obsessing about this. Now they're how do I get the non-ejaculation orgasm? What's the technique for non-ejaculation orgasm? Like what's going to change from it? Because if you just focus on sexual energy flowing into you, if that is what you actually connect with, if you realize that like ultimately it is not about ejaculating, not ejaculating. It's just about you experiencing the flow of sexual energy.
Yeah.
That's your ultimate freedom. That's when you're ultimately free in sex. You can do whatever you want for as long as you want. And it starts from the first moment. Then, all these things will come. All these like orgasmic experiences will come and like different experiences will come. But like, obsessing with this, like this is my next goal to have a non-ejaculation orgasm creates the same obsession as before. And another thing that is not harmful about this practice, but it's limiting for men about like this obsessive focus on this, is that it's always about like the end experience, the end moment. There's always like some kind of Kegel you turn on here, some kind of technique you do here. It's all about like reaching almost to the orgasm, and then like doing something about it to create some kind of like orgasm experience. And everybody's like always agonizing over like how well they're doing this, and the technique working, not working. It's all still about just that one part of sex. It's like everything before didn't matter.
What do you mean everything before didn't matter?
If instead, well, like it's all about getting to that high point of intensity and then trying to do something there to have some kind of non-ejaculation orgasm,
like redirecting the energy
right?
up
Because it needs to be
or something like that.
Yeah, well, it needs to be there at 9.5 or whatever to be considered like an orgasmic experience, right? So it's almost like we're not conversing at all about everything that happens before. Well, no, we are conversing before about like how to just edge and how to it's all like a prep work. It's all like groundwork you're putting in. Where is the love making?
Okay.
When you're actually with the woman already in the vagina from the first moment. But let me just kind of like explain this. You're already with the woman in the vagina from the first moment. There's already energy flowing. There's already like amazing energy flowing there from the first moment. And when you're building up, it's already flowing. and you don't need to be at 9.5. You can be at 9 comfortably. You can be at 8.5 comfortably and get loads and loads of amazing energy from it. So like this whole kind of obsession with that one moment doesn't need to happen. Do you see what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, I understand it to the best of my abilities right now. um, okay, so let me get your thoughts on this then. The way I've thought about this so
Hmm.
far is that being able to experience non-ejaculatory orgasms and being able to have control over the ejaculation response in the body is a prerequisite of sorts to being able to be in the lovemaking space with having like mental space and nervous system capacity to be able to participate in lovemaking that is has a different aim, has like emotional substances as the aim, having love as the aim, but like the ability to not just like come in 3 minutes is a prerequisite of sorts to that. Is that from what you see, is that a helpful way to break it up? Or are you saying that that's still like being too ejaculation focused, like instead just wipe the desk clean and start from a totally different view of sex?
Your ability to be making love to a woman and experiencing energy for as long as you want, last longer, everything has nothing to do with your ability to have non-ejaculation orgasmic experience.
But doesn't it have
That
doesn't it
is
have
just
something to do with your ability not to ejaculate or have some degree of because a lot of guys do ejaculate quickly. I'm not saying that I'm not.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'll be super sensitive and feel like I can ejaculate very very quickly. Other times I'm not. But some people legitimately every time they have sex are like I come in a minute, and like I feel like I can't control it. So isn't for some people like that's a
Yeah.
prerequisite like hey, we need to get past that so that then we can just begin to access some of these different dimensions of the sexual experience. Yeah.
So are we talking about just lasting longer then? Like let's kind of
It's
clarify.
not talking about lasting longer. It's like it almost is like the premature ejaculation is like the bottleneck for their sexual experience becoming wider. They can't, like it's just like it stops the experience at 60 seconds in regardless, and so they're not able to really. But of course, they could like set the intention on saturating in sexual energy and love and bliss and all those wonderful energies, but still, it's at 1 minute they're out because the bottleneck is the ejaculation response. They have no ability to control. Or are you saying that if they really were going into it with the proper mindset of like focusing on the energies, focusing on the sensitivity, that then they would actually find that they could remain in that space as long as they want?
What I am saying is that like all of this obviously needs a resolution and needs improvement. Premature ejaculation, lasting longer, being able to go for longer in sex, but having some kind of non-ejaculation orgasmic experience is not the tool that provides that improvement.
Agreed.
It is it is the improvement is required in order for you to even start exploring those
And
experiences.
what would and
So
what would be the
first,
improvement
you need
specifically?
well, what you're talking about, which is getting rid of premature ejaculation or lasting longer. Like unless you already have solved this, you can't even start exploring. Like exploring non-ejaculation orgasmic experiences is not like the thing you would start doing to remove your premature ejaculation. It is something that you would start practicing or exploring once you have built up the capacity to last longer.
Mm.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. So in your mind, premature ejaculation as a symptom of whatnot or a problem is downstream from the overall intention for sexual experience instead of it being like the it's upstream, like the premature ejaculation limits your time in the classroom, so to speak, right?
Premature ejaculation generally is very different from uh, trying to last longer. Like it's basically a condition.
Oh,
It's not like we can't address it like I just want to last longer. No, I have premature ejaculation. That's got a totally different kind of core problem to
oh,
it.
okay. Then so I guess what
You
I'm
know.
talking about is like whenever you're having sex, and if someone feels like they can't not ejaculate, like they're focused on trying not to ejaculate, and that's consuming most of their attention for the 5 minutes or 10 minutes or having sex,
Yeah.
that at that point, like they're not, maybe it's not premature ejaculation, maybe it's just like ejaculation obsession or something. Like your mind's thinking so much about coming or not coming, and the way to like broaden your sexual experience is not to like learn how to like not come or learn how to circulate the energy, but instead entering the sexual space with a much different intention, more broadly, to give, to receive love, to experience sensation, very, even the smallest and most blissful sensations. Yeah.
No, 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 not at all. No, no. So no, no. All the things you're saying are useful. So learning to manage your sexual energy, learning to manage your levels, learning to circulate it, they're all tools to last longer. That's exactly the tools that you would be using. Not the non-ejaculation orgasm, but these are the tools that you would be
Yeah.
using.
Circulating.
And then these are the tools that might allow you to have these are the tools that might allow you to have an orgasmic
Hmm.
experience. But first, you'd be using them to last longer. And then you might explore an orgasmic experience, but orgasmic experience is not like men think sometimes, or I come in 60 seconds. So if I learn to have an orgasm without ejaculation, I can last for
Yeah,
20
yeah, yeah.
minutes. I mean, it's the
I'm not
opposite,
thinking that. I get what you're
you
saying.
know?
That ultimately, the
Yeah.
practices are about energy movement in the body, like circulation. That's really the practice. You might end up having a non-ejaculatory
Yeah.
orgasm, but if you could do that, then lasting long is no longer an issue because you're circulating. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a bunch of components to lasting longer. It's a sort of a kind of a multi-tool, right? So there's circulating energy is important. Um, the kind of presence in your body, developing the sensitivity in your body, channeling your sexual energy, recognize, like, practicing with your levels is what every man has to do, is just to kind of train your levels, train your awareness of your levels.
Quick question
Yes.
there, on the sensitivity, like presence in the body, sensitivity.
Uh-huh.
Is developing sensitivity an important part of being able to experience the sexual experience more broadly? Because maybe a lot of people are desensitized because of just jerking the chicken and watching internet pornography endlessly, and so like the only level of sexual
Yep.
stimulation that they can even register is like such an intense experience that it's so directly linked to like ejaculation, like edging
Yep.
for 3 hours is the only sexual experience they have. So the broad spectrum of really, really pleasurable sensations that happen before ejaculation are not even registered because of desensitization. Yeah. It's tough.
Yep. Yep. That can totally happen. Yeah. And it's a dead end scenario. So, I'd be like, everybody should be careful about going that
Yeah,
way.
I think, not to interrupt your saying, man, but I think that's probably a really helpful thing for people who are a little bit more on my shoes and the beginning practice of this. That like, you know, being able
Yep.
to like last longer often might be a developing sensitivities thing, because the only thing you're able to feel is that like really sharp, like exciting experience
Hmm.
pre-ejaculation, but there's a whole host of experiences before. So,
Hmm.
anyways, really helpful stuff, man. But back to the multi tool
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
longer.
No, that's a good point. No, but that's a good point. That's a good point. And I think all sensitivity can be developed. You just need to apply
Man,
yourself.
that's some cool
Yeah.
stuff, man, bro.
Uh, well, I mean, it's just like neuroplasticity, isn't it? I mean, that's just you can grow your nerves, basically, metaphorically
Yeah.
speaking, not literally speaking, but you can learn to feel things in your body for sure. Yeah.
You were saying that the multi tool that's able to that you use to able to last longer, presence, sensitivity, and then I interrupted you. Maybe we could pick it back up right there.
Well, I'm not going to describe the full suite, but there are different kind of like there are different areas to lasting longer. It's not just like one thing. I'm going to do this one thing,
Yeah.
and with this one thing I'm going to last longer. There are sort of different components to it. The channeling your sexual energy is important, but also like just training your levels, getting awareness of your levels and knowing what to do with them, because you've got to do something with them. A lot of it has to do with the way you're having sex and the technique you're using in sex, or how men are going through arousal for themselves. How men are moving in penetration, so that changes a lot your ability to last longer. Maybe what you're doing is not good for the woman, and it makes you come too soon. Like it's not good
Yeah,
for
no one's winning.
anybody. you know uh, no one wants it, and like everybody's suffering from it. The There are lots of different kind of like hacks and workarounds. Like you don't need to be hammering for 20 minutes or training yourself to hammer for 1 hour, because she doesn't want that either. you know there's sometimes, like, you don't need to train yourself to be this performative machine, because the woman doesn't want it anyway. And what she actually wants, how she wants you to make love to her, really, that's going to make you feel amazing, is the stuff that is not so overstimulating for you, lets you relax more, and doesn't create so much pressure for you to come. Like you automatically are doing things to your
Yeah.
body that help you to
So
last longer, in the whole complex of like the arousal, the intercourse,
it's almost
everything.
like if we, like if
Yeah.
you had sex like your lady really wanted you to have sex, you could last forever. Like it's not right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Well, another really kind of like, let me just throw this out there, because I always want to remind men about this. Like, man, I'll make a video about this someday. But like I told you, didn't I, that like male sexuality is really mysterious to me.
Hmm.
Did I tell you
Uh,
that? Like female sexuality is really like makes sense to me. It's totally sensible. It's like people sometimes think, oh, that's really complicated. That's not complicated. That just makes total sense to me. It's all very sensible. It's all like really common sense. Male sexuality is like everything is solved with a cock. Cock is the solution to
hmm.
everything. Cock is God. So it's like a worship of a cult of
Hmm.
cock. And everything in sex is going to be resolved with cock, and that's like the mysterious part of male sexuality for me, because maybe there are biological reasons for it or whatever, but it's almost like some kind of a cult. And men often think about it like this in this issue as well, like how to fix sex. I need to last
Hmm.
longer. Like that's going to fix sex. If you just last longer, it's not
Yeah, it
going to
might be
fix
bad
sex.
sex.
She might still be getting crap
Yeah, crap
sex.
sex for longer.
um, yeah, exactly. Do you know how many women told me they prefer for the guy? They're like, he's lasting too long. I want it to be over
Yeah,
sooner.
100%.
You know, but there's also like, okay, what is long sex for a woman? Where there's this belief that men have that basically the longer I'm dicking her, the more she's
Yeah, it's
enjoying
just from
it.
porn, man.
Like she wants longer sex. She wants longer sex. Longer sex doesn't mean longer intercourse. If you ask a woman which part you want longer, um, yeah, I mean, fair enough if there are like some women who really enjoy intercourse and their husband like has extreme PE, but I would imagine that most women will say, I want the foreplay to be
Yeah.
longer. You
Yeah.
know, that's the part I want longer. Like if you want to last longer, first I want the foreplay to last longer, and then second to that maybe would be I want fingering to last longer or the oral to last
Yeah.
longer, and then maybe I'd like the intercourse to last longer. So there's kind of expanding that perspective
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. I totally get what you're saying, man. The other factors at play, the other activities, the other ways of giving, feeling, receiving sexual energy, love, all that stuff. But yeah, most guys are like, to make sex better, I should be able to stick it in her for longer, harder, without coming. Like that's type that in Google search, add to cart, buy. So I totally understand.
Do you know what a lot of men develop PE, premature ejaculation, in relationships, later in relationships. So like there's a big bunch of men that I worked with like that. What happens? This cult of dick, Yeah, so this is all about me, like, lasting longer in the vagina. Okay, works for the honeymoon period. Then she disengages from sex. It's not doing anything for her. She starts avoiding sex. He starts getting tense about it. He's not getting sex. He feels he's not satisfying her. He develops premature
Mm.
ejaculation, because he's tense about it, because like there's clearly
Yeah.
dissatisfaction from
Yeah.
her in sex. He thinks I need to learn to last longer. He thinks I need to get rid of my premature ejaculation because I need to last
Yeah.
longer, and then it will satisfy her. The reason this happened in the first place, the premature ejaculation, is because he thought it was all about lasting
Yeah.
longer. That's what's caused the
That's why she pulled
situation.
away from the
There were
sex. Yeah.
like other things. That's why she disengaged, because there were other things that were missing, and he's trying to solve it with the same thing that created the
Mm.
problem. You know.
Yeah. It's really, really helpful insight, man. Um, Other thing that I want to ask you about is the importance of like practicing energy circulation in the body. The word qigong comes to mind. Qigong is like ancient energy practices,
Yeah.
right? How important is that in cultivating? I mean, we talked about the multi-tool. Three things I've written down is circulation, sensitivity, and presence. So, how important in that circulation component is being familiar with like some of the more like Chinese medicine, energy channels, qigong, or is that all just overcomplicated for no particular reason?
Um, I don't think it's important to be familiar with them. I think it depends what kind of technique you're using. So, for example, I have adopted techniques from various places. Specifically, I drew a lot on Qigong because I thought like that's actually the most applicable energy practice for sexual energy. Um, and like I have adapted it and I have modified it over the years to work really well for
Mm.
sex. So it's like a modded version of Qigong for sex. But so obviously I don't teach it like this and I don't refer to it and I just say, well, this is like, how you channel your sexual energy, so it really shouldn't be complicated, and the more complicated it is, the worse it is to use. It's not important to use to know, to have like intimate knowledge of these things in their original form, done for their original purpose, as long as you just have a simple thing that you can do for your sexual energy,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not necessary. However, also like there is an element, there is an interesting impact that you get from practicing these things just on their own for themselves, which develops your kind of your ability then to kind of do the same in
Yeah.
sex. So I've noticed that a lot from people who are practicing either yoga or qigong. They just feel a lot more in sex and they're able to kind of circulate the sexual energy without even like having ever encountered any idea of how to do it in sex. So that also happens. Anything you do really to connect more intimately, develop the sensitivity in your body. Some people get into dance and they improve
Mm.
sex. So
Mm. Maybe
yeah,
just in
it
general,
happens.
becoming more aware of what's going on in the body, like introperception kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. So it's like developing your sensitivity to the internal sensation of the
Mm.
body.
Mm.
Yeah.
Let me look at a couple of the
Mhm.
questions I have, man. We got about 30 minutes left max.
Yeah, yeah. Whatever you want, man. There's no rush.
This is something that is interesting to me. Just like how much, how like obviously your people's. Go ahead. What's
Mate, let me stop you. I have been a little bit aware of that this is a public
Yeah.
recording, so I've been a little bit elusive
Uh-huh.
sometimes. But if you got points that you really kind of want me to tell
Yeah.
you, just ask me after.
Certainly.
Ask me after.
Thank you.
Like the things that you really want to know that I didn't answer.
Certainly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So
Yeah.
we know that the intention with sex really does a lot in creating the experience that you're walking into. Like how are we seeing sex? What's the intention here?
Yeah.
What am I showing up to experience? Um, like what I've started to learn recently is that it's so much about just how I've conditioned my body to respond to sexual energy. And whether it's through closure and
Hmm.
excitement, or it's through relaxation and luxuriating and expanding and circulating, like it really is just down to how you've trained yourself to respond to it. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a good thing.
Yes. Okay. So one thing
That's empowering. You get
that you
choice.
have that choice. Yeah. Um, okay. So you know how like you run a wheelbarrow back and forth in the snow enough times and there's a groove and then it's hard to go anywhere but in that groove. Michael Pollan with in the book How to Change Your Mind talks a really great analogy with like just a fresh slate of snow so that you can kind of go new grooves in terms of relating to things with new behaviors and new associations. Like knowing that the groove is it's so deep for so many people, myself included, with just like overstimulation, visual stimulation, being out of your body, excitatory response, focused on ejaculation. Like what are ways that people can like begin to approach sex
Mhm.
with to increase their chances of having a new experience. You know what I mean?
Well, I think first of all, no matter how deep the groove was, you can see that you are always experiencing new
Mm.
things. So it's not an obstacle. Um, I believe that I think that vision, what you call the
Mm.
intention. You say, well, the intention in sex is to experience something, this and this and this. I think that's the key part to start with, because it's almost like beginning to dangle this new experience in your mind before you lay down those grooves,
Yep.
right? So it's like, okay, this is like the blueprint now, and now we're going to try to build on this
Hmm.
blueprint, right? So if you don't have that, then yeah, you keep doing the same thing. So it's like changing, first of all, changing that intention, and saying, well, sex is about feeling this, and these qualities, and those are the qualities I want to tune into. That's what I want to feel. Like in the holistic sex, you've seen there's like the whole first module. It's all just about the mindset. It's all about, like,
Yeah.
sexual energy can feel like this. It can feel like
Yeah.
this is what it's about. So the reason I'm doing that in the holistic sex is because you're creating the vision first. Okay, well, this is the blueprint, and now you're filling it in with the practices, because otherwise it doesn't work. So there is a transitional period where you have desensitized yourself, so you're doing these things the old way. You have a new vision, and at first you need to hold it, and you need to try to feel these things, even though they're not so easy to feel at the
Yep.
moment. But you need to stimulate yourself to kind of for the reality to plug into the
Yep.
blueprint, and then the blueprint can fall off, and then you will feel these
Yeah.
things. But at first you need to you need to keep holding it to develop your
And
feelings.
that is so beautiful, man. Like,
Does
yeah,
that make
it's so beautiful because it's like it's such a growth mindset thing. It's such a thing of hope that says like you don't have to continue to seek
Mhm.
more and more and more and more stronger, potent, intense external stimuli, to make sex better. Like you can go within and go deeper and feel more and be more in tune with your body and be more sensitive, develop like a sensitivity to dimensions of sexual experience that you weren't even aware of before. And that like no man's
Mhm.
land, I know personally that like that it's an important part of the process, because like initially it just feels like the sex gets worse. Just like, okay, it was intense,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
this chase, it was this excitement thing. Now it kind of feels like what are we doing here? But I mean, and it's such a cool thing, man, that it's true. Like at first you don't feel much at all, but then you do start, the more you in your mind intend to sense like more subtle shifts, more subtle sensations, more emotional currents. The more you
Mhm.
begin to think about like
Mhm.
how good it feels to get your emotional needs met, and how the technology of sex is a method of meeting those, and then bringing some of your emotional needs to the bedroom too. Like, it really does begin to evolve. That's when it started getting really exciting for me, was when I was like, oh shit, the more I do really pay
Hmm.
attention to this, and the more I do set in my mind to be more sensitive, to be more present, there's so much more here. And I left way too early to go seek bigger and better, you know?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And you know what else happens is, if you always seek better and better, that's a dead end,
Yeah.
because there comes a ceiling where there's only so much you can do, and now you can't feel anything,
Yep.
and that's it. There's nowhere else
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
go, you know. Or you start doing completely silly things. Like people get into that as well. Like it's just like, I don't know why we're doing this, but it turns me
Sure. Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Because it's novel. Like at that point, you're just
But
chasing the novelty of the brain, just dopamine and whatnot. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, the only reason you're doing this is because somehow it turns you on, but it's got like no inherent value to it. And But what happens when you sensitize yourself? You go through a transitional period, and you, like you said, like really beautifully explained, when you kind of like find, okay, there's a lot more here. What else can I find here? Then there is much further you can go into that bigger and better.
Down.
Because if you need to be doing this all the time to feel something, like how much harder can you
Yeah.
hit? But if you are doing this and you feel the same as this already because you're very
Yeah.
sensitive, then what happens if then you do
Yeah.
this? You
Yeah.
know, like the telescopic expansion of like the intensity of that, what you can feel is so much
Yeah.
more now from sensitivity than you could have ever got by chasing intensity. You know.
100%, man. I was talking to my brother about some of the things I had learned, and discussing some of the, we were discussing men's preoccupation with our penis size, and how we think about our lovers and think about,
Mhm.
oh, who have they been with in the past, and how do I measure up to them, and that kind of thing. But just like in this, it's such a different perspective. Like, I, I was, I told him, like, if you were really trying to really please your lover, like, would you rather have, like a foot long dildo, or like a point of Molly? Like, you'd rather have some MDMA, and then the smallest of sensations, there's a sensitivity to it that's just incredible, versus just like trying to pound somebody like you see in the pornos. And that's been really that's been a North Star for me. When I look up in the sky, I see a giant dildo,
Mhm.
or I see a point of Molly, and instead of going after the dildo, I'm going like, man, sensitivity, love, the emotions are what create this beautiful expansion of endless, seemingly, pleasures and experience,
Mhm.
versus just, bigger, better, get on the edge of your seat. It's going to be big, monster jam, that kind of thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
But,
Mhm. Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's such a beautiful thing, man. Um, that's such a beautiful thing. But just to touch on a point too, you said like, there's an end. I'm glad it's set up the way it is, but there's an end to bigger, better. There's an end to it inherently. When you're chasing novelty and new stimuli, like, it just doesn't work, because at some point the point becomes novelty itself, and you can't catch novelty. Like, it's just an evaporating thing. You constantly see the shiny thing, you get closer, it loses the shine. Like, but this one, staying with what is, feeling more into it, it's a never ending honey cove, for real.
Yeah. Well, and in a relationship context, to add to what you said, that like, the point of novelty becomes novelty. Um, this can ruin a relationship,
Yeah.
because if that is the pattern of engagement with sex, when just it's all about
Yeah.
novelty, you can't beat the ultimate novelty, which is a new
Yeah.
person. Like, you can't
Yeah,
beat
100%.
that.
You're setting yourself up for a game that's like inherently fucked. Change the game, man.
Yeah. 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 So if you can go deeper and feel more and develop your sensitivity, then you can get a much better sex with the person you've been with. Then you can get with somebody new where you start
Yo,
again.
it's so cool,
You
man. And
know.
I'm honestly on the air too, on the video. I want to say thank you, man, because me and Lauren, bro, we've been able to have experiences sexually that have been so beautiful and so different than what I had ever conceived of before, and so much of it has been because of our conversation that we had in March. So much of it has been just from the topics you put out on YouTube. I'm not just trying to hype you up because you're my boy or anything. Like I've met you through this stuff, and it's been. I mean, really, man, this stuff is really powerful. I'm really grateful for your influence on my journey so far. It's so,
Amazing. Well, I'm really like, I really admire you for having gone and done all this. Everything you've done, I really admire you for
thank
it.
you, man. I appreciate it.
Everything you've done with yourself, everything that you have found yourself, what you have discovered, what you've achieved, what you've done, like without any kind of help or influence from me, but like you've done really amazing thing with yourself.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean,
The moment of experience after a sexual experience, the moment after the sexual experience, where you tap into a totally new paradigm. And maybe you're like me if you're a listener. Maybe it's like, you know maybe it's porn addiction, maybe it's sex addiction, maybe it's constantly seeking novelty, intensity, entertainment. It's all about more, bigger, better. That it is inherently frustrating, especially when you're in a long-term partnership, because you're like, here I am with this person, and same person, so like, what, this isn't working. But when you swap over, and then you really begin to like put into practice the stuff we've been talking about today, and then you feel this, like, just this brush of like a whole new availability of like nourishment, of pleasure, of connection. I mean, like, just to say that after 4 years of being together, now me and my partner are having way better sex, so much better sex than we have ever had before. After 4 years, that only makes, and it's with the same person, like, that only makes me really much more of a much more of an advocate for the stuff we're talking about today, because of how powerful it can be. It really is powerful. So if you haven't put this stuff into practice yet, like, don't, do it. And then when you feel you're in that no man's land where there's, you disconnected with your previous model of sex, and now you're kind of feeling rather aimless and maybe bored, like, just tune in and think, where does this feel good in my body? Where does this feel good to be with this person? What am I feeling right now? Even no matter how small, and then see if you can develop your superpower being, feeling the nuanced differences and expanding upon those. Because that, man, if you could have any superpower, I think that's probably the one to want for sexually. So, yeah, man. Is there anything else that we didn't quite polish off in today's conversation that you want to add?
uh, no. Well, I don't. I'm not holding any thread from before, no. But if you have something, go for it. You're good with it.
Yeah, I'm good with it, man. I think that's a good place to land, especially for the people listening to this. I know this is probably just as much of really, there's a lot here we've already talked about.
Yeah.
So, well, in that case, man,
Cool.
thank you, brother. I really appreciate you. People can
And
people can check you out on YouTube, Alexey Welsh, lovefloweducation.com. Get the course. I did fantastic. I can say endless amounts of praise about it, but just go check it out for yourself. Yeah. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode.